Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hey Sawbones. So, this is going to be a great episode. Super excited about this guest. He is a lot of the main reasons of who I am and where I am and what I'm doing right now because of him. So, this is my program director for my Orthopedic Surgery Residency, Dr. Christopher Najarian. He is from Metro Detroit. Awesome guy, awesome family man, has 4 kids. Practiced as an orthopedic surgeon for 45 years. So he's seen a lot of different changes within the orthopedic community. He originally was treating fractures with, traction pins and plaster casts and really not much surgery early on. And then he saw the evolution of orthopedics over the past, 5 decades. And just an amazing guy. I look at him as a father figure. He has a lot of interesting outside of orthopedic life lessons, the importance of family, the importance of education, the importance of travel, and we discuss all that. So I hope you enjoy. Stay tuned. It's coming up next. Have a great day.
All nurses to the nurses station.
Lawless country people are real close family. Lately, some of my kinfolk don't get around too good, you see. When that doctor asked them, son, how'd you get in this condition? They says, hey, Sawbones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. Wanna know, Doc, why do you think I got some pain in my joints from years of playing hard in this life that's too short? When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I says, hey, Sawbones, I'm just carrying on it old family tradition. Tell me all about it, Doc.
Hey, everybody. Dr. Ryan Molly here, and welcome to Hey Sawbones, my story, my passion. This is going to be an awesome episode. I've been off air chatting with my guest for several minutes now. I can honestly say that this individual has helped to shape me probably more than any other individual in my life professionally. He's up there right with my parents in terms of influences, and on a day-to-day basis, there's not a person that I probably quote more or refer to more from just the things that I've learned in my life. So this is we're doing a virtual one. Obviously, I wish I could do this in person so I could share some vino with my guests, but without further ado, I just want to introduce my residency program director, Dr. Christopher Najarian.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Najarian.
Yeah,
How are you?
Thank you. Great. I'm as long as I'm here is great.
Yeah. So I mentioned when you first got on, I said, "Boy, you don't look any different. You don't sound any different from the last time I saw you," which was a couple years ago. We went out to Einstein Bagels for some coffee and a bagel when we were up there, but. The podcast, you were asking me kind of what it is, what we do. Well, it's essentially just a vehicle for my patients and my family, my friends to kind of really get an inside look at like what makes me tick, the people that helped influence to get me where I'm at, but also to kind of highlight your stories because that's actually probably the more interesting part for most people because at this point, we're like episode 30 something. People are probably tired of hearing about me, and a lot of the questions have been redundant, but really kind of hear about the really successful people that I've met throughout my life. So can you give our guests, a kind of 2 to 3 minute quick 30,000 foot view of who Dr. Christopher Najarian is, where you grew up and your family, that kind of stuff?
Well, I grew up in Highland Park, Michigan, and I went to University of Detroit High School, which was an all-boys school, which my father sent me to, which I had no plans on doing that. I was going to go to Highland Park High School, which is a public school. Well, that school had all these bright people. You had to take a test to get in there. And in those days, you didn't, parents, when they said you have to do this, you did it. It wasn't like today where, Johnny, do you want to do this or not? In those days you went. So I went, and I found that there's a whole group of really super smart people walking around. And I always tell a story. I got 90th percentile on the pre-SAT, and I was in the bottom half of my class, and it was over 200 guys. So
Wow.
from there, I went to University of Detroit, and most of the Catholic kids in those days went to University of Detroit. It's not as popular anymore, but Detroit was a vibrant city in the early 60s. And I had a great time there, and I met my wife there. And then I decided, my dad was a dentist, and I didn't want to be a dentist. And Mike Keefe, who was a nephrologist out of Oxford, I knew him because he was in my brother's class in high school. He said, "Hey, Chris, why don't you go to DO school?" I said, "What the heck is that?" Anyways, I did that, and then when I interned in town, I was going to be going into family practice, but then I decided, even then, I said, I can't know everything about everything. This seems crazy. And what else do I like? Well, I'd been an athlete in high school, and I liked, and I because of that, I liked orthopedics. The only problem with at that time, medicine, internal medicine, and general surgery were the elite specialties, and orthopedics was not, because it was just considered to be just a few surgeries. There was no arthroscopy at the time I started, no MRI, no total joints. It was just basically you hung people up in traction, and nevertheless, I decided I like sports. I like radiology. I like neurology. I was all involved in that. The only thing I didn't have was internal medicine, but I decided to do it. And it was pretty primitive in those days. We hung people up in traction. We casted everybody. We did very little open reduction. Shoulder surgery was non-existent, basically. And knees, there was no anterior cruciate reconstruction. We did total meniscectomies, which was totally the wrong thing to do, because then you had bone on bone afterwards. And so but then all of a sudden things started to change. I went to a course in Boston on total hips, total joints, and I think Harris was there at the time, and some other guys. And now I'm forgetting the guy from France, and they talked about cementing hips.
John Charnley was the father of hip replacement.
Another guy, the guy that had he had a honeycomb stem, which the bones grew in, and most of the guys, I thought that was a joke. If I remember his name, I'll tell you. But anyway, so I brought back the information to my chief, and I showed him how to do total hips, and we started doing that stuff. And then I went to a course.
Was that Dr. Simonian?
Yeah, and then I went to a course in Lansing, and another guy up there, I can't remember his name either. I'm sorry, I forget all his names, but I learned arthroscopy.
Was it Herb Ross?
The guy who was taking the course with me was the guy from the sports medicine guy from Alabama. You know his name?
Oh, Anderson.
Not Anderson. Alabama. He's at my age now. He's not. I think he's still practicing.
James Andrews.
Andrews. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So he was saying, and he had been in a prominent practice with another guy that's fairly famous. Sports guy, and he said if he knew, I was okay. So, anyways, arthroscopy. We started with that. We just did diagnostic arthroscopy. We didn't do surgery with it. And then we started with total joints, and at that point, they started with the Synthes came in with the plate system to fix fractures, and then the biggest change in the 80s was the idea of rotting femurs and tibias. Closed reduction and rotting changed the whole fracture treatment for those cases. We were always fixing hips. We had the hip screw when I was a resident, which was good. And then we did unipolar hips. And then we started doing bipolar because they got a little better results. But did I hit something? No. Anyways. And since then shoulder surgery became more sophisticated because MRI came about. This is crazy. And then we had MRIs, we had CT scans. Those are all new stuff. And, so what are we going to have in the future? I don't know, but orthopedics has come,
leaps and bounds.
I started with. And now, when I started, nobody wanted to do orthopedics, residents. Now, in the last couple of years, I was program chairman. We had like 180 applications for 2 spots. Now, some people are really, doing it in multiple places, but still,
Right.
it was crazy. Now I think and now it's become the most interesting specialty, I think, because you can see your work, what you've done,
Yeah.
and
I'm a little
I always thought
biased.
that's interesting. And plus, it's the variety, especially if you do some general orthopedics along with whatever you do. It's fantastic because you're not just doing an eye or something else, but you can do a lot of different things, which I thought was kind of interesting. But it's getting more and more sophisticated, and the knowledge has tripled and quadrupled. So it's hard to do what I did, which was a lot of uh, general orthopedics, and about 50% was hand and 50% was general. But it's getting more and more difficult to do that because each area is becoming
Yeah.
very sophisticated. So, and you know that from
Oh, for sure.
the whole points, it's changing
For sure.
dramatically. The results are getting better. People have more natural gait, everything else. They can go back to normal activities, barring something crazy. But it's been a great ride. So that was fantastic. The second thing in my career was great was the ability to teach. And
We're going to get into
uh,
that. We're going to get
yeah,
into
okay.
that.
All right,
So,
fine.
because I've got some great questions for you.
Okay.
What I want to do though is we talked a little bit about this, kind of the format. So, I want to save most of the time for the end for me to ask you questions. So,
Okay.
as I mentioned, 6 questions each. You're going to ask
All
me
right.
3 business questions first, then 3 personal. Then we're going to spin the table, and I'm going to ask you the question. So, fire away. Business questions first.
All right. Well, how did you, first of all, how do you like practicing in Meadville as opposed to in a large city?
Yeah, so I mean, I had the opportunity to do both, right? I was in practice
Right.
in Metro
That's why I'm
Detroit for
asking.
about 4.5, almost 5 years.
Right.
It was where I was comfortable because that's where I did my training. It's where
Right.
my wife is from, but I'm obviously from a more rural area, Meadville. And when I moved back here in 2015, there was an amazing opportunity to take over a total joints practice where the surgeon was doing about 700 joints per year, which my last year in Michigan, I did about 300. So not quite half of what I did my first year coming here to Meadville. So it was great because I was able to work and operate on people that helped to really get me to where I'm at. So I've done my French teacher's hip replacements, her husband's hip and knee replacements, people from church, some of my best friends' parents, just local family, friends, things like that. So it's almost like a way for me to give back to the people that helped to get me to where I'm at. And to me, it's a comfortable environment because the city life, although I lived it for over a decade, it was, there was so much competition, and not that I shy away from competition at all, but it was an opportunity for me to kind of build what I wanted to build on my own without having to feel like I had 100 people looking and saying, "What's he doing? What's he doing? What's he doing? What's he doing?" It was kind of like under the radar a little bit.
Right. Okay. Now, how did your building work out? That whole I know you had a cafe in there too. The whole thing, that clinic building you built. Did you build that, or did you buy it? I can't
No,
remember.
we built it. Yeah, we started it from scratch. It was a
How
process
many square feet is it?
so 8,000.
8,000. Okay, that's
Yep.
pretty good size. Yeah.
Yep. We
And how many examining rooms do you have?
So I have 9 downstairs. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 upstairs. So 15 exam rooms, and 2 X-ray suites, multiple administrative business offices. There's a kitchen, full kitchen for my staff, kind of like a break room. The PAs have
Yeah.
their own office area. There's medical assistant areas. The lobby is huge, and what I'll do is I'll actually who edits this podcast, he's able to put photos in here, almost like a virtual tour. We can do a little bit of that, but yeah, that was my baby. I designed that very much like your son Brian.
Yeah.
I have a very high interest in architecture and design work, and I'm sitting right here in my basement
Well,
wine cellar,
yes,
and
I
I
remember
designed all
you used to
this.
right, you used to make furniture, as I
Yep.
remember.
Yep.
Remember that?
Still,
And
still,
also,
still do
I have
that.
to tell you, Maureen brought this up. Do you remember this thing? This is
Uh,
in our house.
yeah. Pull it back a little bit. Pull,
Amazing.
pull it back.
You took a, can you see it?
Yeah. Pull it back. There you go.
There
So
you go.
yeah, that's your house.
The detail is phenomenal on this. And you took I think a roof tile or
Yep.
something,
Slate
and
roof tile.
you painted it, and I can't believe the detail you did on this thing. It's
So,
amazing.
so maybe what you could do, if you
Maybe you
don't
should have
mind,
been a Van Gogh. Maybe you should have been Van Gogh or something. Maybe you're Van Gogh in that surgery. I don't know.
Michelangelo. Um,
Yeah.
but
No,
if
this is amazing. I'm
could
telling you.
could you take a photo of that, and then what I'll do is Jay's going to reach out to you. He can actually incorporate that so it's a little higher quality in there. But yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I was told I was supposed to go to art school, not medical school.
Yeah, I think you have that ability. Yeah. Well, Brian was the same way. He's a phenomenal artist, and but I think I kind of told him it's hard to make a living. You know, Van Gogh didn't make any money till he was dead. You know, his family made all the money. So, so, but I just want to say that obviously you're very talented
Well, thank you.
artist, and as well as surgeon. So that's great. But that's what was so good about the whole program. Everybody had different talents,
Yeah.
but everybody was pretty smart, and everybody was really good at doing surgery for the most part.
I mean, to
We only
me,
had we only had one issue with someone that couldn't do surgery, and you know who that was, and I won't bring that name up.
um, to me, each day I'm an artist, right? With what I do
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the technical
Yeah.
skills that I use. There's a lot of precision, right? A lot of people think of
Oh yeah,
total joint surgeons as big mallets and big hammers, and it's just rough work. We don't really do anything precise, but I would
you gotta
argue with that.
balance the knees. Yeah, no, you got to do it. You got no. I think like they used to talk about the robotics and stuff. Well, robotics helps the guy that's not so good with his hands. The guys that are really good don't really need robotics for the most part. At least at that time they didn't. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe it's changed, but the guys that had really good hands could do it.
I don't use any
Good as a-
robots.
Huh?
These are my robots.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So,
All right, you got one more business question, then we'll go to the personal stuff.
well, business stuff. So you're a successful orthopedic surgeon. You're very successfully built your own thing. I guess in the hospital. I mean, are you the chief of orthopedics there, or you have a bunch of guys there, or how's that working?
Yeah, so as we mentioned a little bit earlier, I operate at Edgewood Surgical Hospital. I'm on the board. Definitely the busiest surgeon there. I'm also the youngest surgeon there, although I'm in my mid 40s. But I meet with the other business board members on a regular basis to kind of keep the direction of where we're going. We've got some great projects coming up with expansion and things like that. And you mentioned earlier, like, well, you have a pretty good relationship with your administrators. I said, well, it's very different because my administrators are not like your classical acute care hospital administrators where their agenda is very different than mine. We're all in the same boat. We're all rowing in the same direction because we have the same goals in mind. Even though 50% of my business partners are not physicians, the other 50% are. And we have a voice. And when I walk in there, there's nothing better in my life than when I walk into my own facility, my own hospital, right? And my staff is, they know who provides, food for their family and butters their bread, so to speak. So it's a very collegial environment. It's a very warm, welcoming. It's more of like a luxury hotel than it is a hospital. We don't have an ICU. We don't have an ER. We don't have sick patients. We do two types of operations there. We do orthopedic surgery, and we do a ton of joints, well over 1,000 joint replacements per year with myself and my partners and other people, probably close to 14 or 1,500.
Do you have a partner in doing total joints?
So
Anybody?
I don't have a business partner in the practice, but I have an associate that
Okay.
I actually replaced when I came back to Meadville. He was the guy doing 700. He retired for 2 years, Dr. Frendak, and he actually is a DO. He trained at PCOM. He is in his early to mid 60s. Unbelievable. He's a lot like you. He's in really good shape. He's very academic. He continues to read articles. He's sharing stuff with me all the time. And he trained with Tom Mallory and Adolph Lombardi, who
Yeah,
I
sure. Oh yeah, your
so
guys. Yeah,
we have
yeah.
very similar backgrounds like that. He's from this area. He was a high school and collegiate wrestler, state champion for
Wow.
both. And
Impressive.
so he's
Why did he retire so early?
he was just burned out. He was the private practice president of his group and was just done with it. He's got the best gig now. He works a day and a half a week. He does half day clinic on Wednesdays, full day of surgery. He does 300 joints a year, about 250 to
How
300.
old a guy is he?
Early to mid 60s. I think he's about 63,
Oh, that's young.
64.
Yeah, that's young. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
but
Well,
great
good.
relationship.
You gave him a new lease on life.
Oh, he tells me all the time. He's like, Ryan, I've never had this much fun. And he goes, I can continue to do this at this pace indefinitely. And as long as I enjoy it. And he always tells me, he's like, as long as you want me to be here. And I said, Phil, I love having you here because it's somebody that I can talk to. Just
Right.
like we had residency, our journal club, like in private practice, you don't have that. But I kind of feel like I do have that with him because we share journal articles all the time.
Yeah.
And we get down into the details, and we really both have the same passion and really trying to create that quality of care for our patients.
That's great. I got one other quick question. You had a dream of building a home, a neighborhood of people, healthy people, healthy things. Whatever happened to that?
So great question. That was called Whole Health Communities. And my best friend and I, who's a real estate attorney in Cleveland, we originally targeted about 60 to 65 properties in the Metro Detroit area because he married a Michigan girl too.
Right.
And the property that we kind of settled on was about 400, almost 500, 490 some acres, almost 500 acres. It was out by Kensington Metro Park, literally bordered up against it. It was right off of Milford Road and the highway there.
Right.
And, it was 2013, 14, and then 2015, he got a new job at a new law firm in Cleveland. I moved to Meadville. So that dream kind of the pause button got pushed, but the concept was whole health. That's what the name was. It was Whole Health Communities. And then when I just started to start my orthopedic practice in 2017, I asked my best friend, hey, do you mind if I use the name and the concept and the ideas? So not only do I have an orthopedic practice, but it's called Whole Health Orthopedic Institute. We now have a wellness institute where we optimize our patients before surgery. We help them lose weight. We help to get their diabetes under control. We help them to stop smoking. We help them to get their nutrition under control, the people that are malnourished, so that we can optimize them, reduce their risk, and improve their outcomes. And I know you're a little bit of a pessimist with some of this stuff, but I will tell you, I have successfully gotten a lot of people to lose weight. I have successfully gotten a lot of people to stop smoking. I have successfully gotten a lot of people to improve their nutrition because pain is a very strong motivating factor. And if I just tell you, I'm not doing your operation until you, as a participant in this relationship, do these things, they're like, okay, how do I do it? And instead of just saying lose weight, stop smoking, come back when you've done that, we actually have an institute now, the Wellness Institute, that helps them. I employ 3 people that help them to do all this.
Wonderful. That's really great. I was not that successful in Madison Heights with my clientele on doing those things. The weight loss thing was virtually impossible for people. And of course, now they got semaglutides, everybody's doing that. But at that time, it was really difficult to get people to lose weight.
Yeah.
Very difficult. And then
I'm not saying it's easy now. I'm not saying it's easy, but
smoking or drinking was another problem. And the famous line they would tell me is, well, doc, you have to have some vice. What the heck is that? So
yeah, that
was always difficult, and I would tell people, especially in the last 10 years of my practice, you know what, you want to get high, why don't you work out? You'll feel really good. And they'd look at me like I was some kind of from outer space, and it's so much easier to, smoke a joint. And a lot of the people were smoking marijuana to do that than go work out at the gym.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be easier for people to to do that. But yeah, the discipline it takes to work out, to exercise is really, I found out to be very difficult for people.
I think it's getting harder and harder too. But
So I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and I think if you're successful at it, God bless you.
yeah, well, it's a
I
lot of hard
certainly
work,
wasn't
but
successful. Huh?
it's a lot of hard work. But I'll tell you, it's a lot more rewarding than me just putting metal and plastic in people. And trust me, I love my day job, but it also allows me to do this at a higher satisfaction rate and a higher success rate because
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
have the deep infections that a lot of people have because they
Right.
are operating on anybody and everybody.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
personal stuff, personal questions.
Well, how old are your boys now? And where are they in school? I know they're getting older.
Yeah. So Anthony is 13. He literally, I think, is either just getting home from a baseball game or will be soon.
Yeah.
Santino is 11. He is currently at baseball practice, had basketball practice last night. They're all very active. And then Luca, he's our youngest. He is 8. He'll be 9 later this month. And he is also a avid athlete. He plays baseball. He plays basketball. All three play travel baseball for different. So we're Karen and I are
Busy.
yeah, we're going every which direction. Santino plays travel basketball, so that season is just wrapping up. We've got one more tournament in Sandusky in a couple weeks, but then the baseball will start full swing for the summer. We enjoy it though. I know you have 4 kids, and all your kids were very active and extracurricular stuff, and I have very similar. Karen and I both have very similar.
We did it. Our kids swam, and 2 of them swam at University of Notre Dame, and now what's happening now? We have 11 grandkids and 5 boys here in town, and now we're doing the same thing. Now we're going to a baseball game yesterday.
Yeah, but it's fun,
game.
Right?
Yeah, we enjoy it, but you're, it seemed like it was easier when I was younger to sit there in the stands for a couple hours. You know what I mean?
Well, I was thinking it would be easier when I was in your position because right now I'm so intense, especially like basketball, because that was my sport. So I coached.
You're not one of those parents that yell, are you?
Well, I was a coach for 3 basketball teams this past season. Two different teams for my middle son Santino and one for my youngest son Luca. And it's hard for me because I'm so competitive, especially with that because that was my sport. That this travel team, my buddy said, we coached. I was a head coach. He was my assistant for the one team. He goes, "Hey, why don't you be the head coach for this travel team? I'll be the assistant." I said, "Jared, I'm not doing it." I was like, "I'll do the rec stuff, but travel, no way. The commitment, the this, the that." And quite honestly, I got too wrapped up in it, and it took the fun out of it.
That's the problem. You gotta, most likely your kids aren't going to play in the NBA or whatever. You want
Definitely
to have a good time, So you want, and so you have to keep that in mind. I remember our second child, Natalie, was one of the top 3 swimmers in the state when she was growing under 12 years old. She was super fast, and people come to me and say, "Wow, she's going to go to the Olympics." I said, "No, she's not going to the Olympics. Look at my height and look at my wife's height. No way she's going to the Olympics."
Yeah.
So let's enjoy it while you can. So it's you want your kids to enjoy it, but you like to have them good coaching too, all those kind of things. And that's always a difficulty because when you're a lot of people don't want to take that job or whatever. So someone's got to volunteer, and sometimes the people volunteering aren't so hot and whatever.
We're pretty fortunate that all their coaches are pretty good, and quite honestly, I've kind of done some self-reflection myself, and I'm a much better parent sitting on the sideline than I am a coach. I will say for my son Santino's 2 basketball teams, we were undefeated this year, both teams. Okay. Each team was 9-0. We won the championship for both leagues, but it just took too much out of me, and we would butt heads, and he doesn't really want to listen to me because I'm dad. And so it's better for me to sit on the sidelines.
You know what? There's a fine line between doing that and then burning them out where they say, "Well, this is just not worth it."
Exactly.
So that's what
I'm officially retired from coaching.
You're always pretty intense,
Yeah.
Anyways. But
What other
well,
personal stuff?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, how and has your wife made the adjustment to Meadville? I know she wasn't excited about moving there to begin with.
Yeah, so we live in Erie. We don't live in Meadville, which is
Oh,
nicer.
you're
Not
okay.
not
Is
that
that a
Erie
nice
is
town?
some major metropolis, but it's a lot bigger than Meadville. I will tell you this: she loves the people here. The people in Erie, Pennsylvania, and just Northwest Pennsylvania are really, really good, salt of the earth type people.
Yeah.
They're helpful. They're friendly. She's met a really good core group of girlfriends that she'll go out to lunch with. She'll go out
Oh,
tomorrow
that's
night.
nice.
She's going out to dinner with a couple of girlfriends. Um, People from our church. Like she's got a nice little place, and she just started going back to work, helping to sub and at the boys' school. So she's a teacher. She loves working with children with special needs, and that's always been her passion. So, uh oh,
That's wait a minute. That's Maureen's sister calling. When she can't get a hold of Maureen, she calls me all the time.
okay.
Uh, don't worry about that.
I think you have one more personal question that I get to ask you questions.
Doing a lot of surgery. You're running a practice. You're running a business. Are you taking care of yourself physically? And by that I mean exercising in a regular basis, or are you just doing it whenever you can?
Yeah, no, I actually am pretty regimented. That's one of the things that not only you, but just like I've always been a routine guy. So just this week, I was down at the peninsula. I did a 6 mile walk on Monday, 6 mile walk on Tuesday. Sunday, I did resistance training. And then this morning, Karen and we have a trainer that comes to our house 2 days a week, and we do weight training with him. So we did that early before I went down to clinic today. So I do weight training at least 2, sometimes 3 days per week, and then I do aerobics, some type of exercise. Unfortunately, I have 2 very arthritic hips, so I can't run anymore. I used to run
Oh,
half
you do?
marathons. Yeah,
How did you? How do you? Is
A-
that familial or is that
FAI,
traumatic?
FAI. So
Pardon me?
femoral acetabular impingement. I
Oh, you
have,
do.
yeah, I have pretty shallow
Did you?
sockets and pretty big cam lesions. Um,
Oh, you're gonna have your buddy do your hips?
no, I'm gonna get some mirrors. I'm gonna do it myself. I just got to get a little bit more practice under my belt. So, but yes, I do take that pretty seriously, because I do feel as though, longevity, not only in my career, but just in my life. And I want to be able to be around for my wife and my boys. And I want to be able to, when I do eventually retire, enjoy life. I don't want to be some obese, sedentary person that has chronic disease. So I do almost every day some type of physical activity for at least an hour.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
excellent. But so you got femoral asset pitch. All right, that's interesting. Uh, so what is your plan on the surgery ultimately?
I
When
mean, I'm
you
going to
can't.
need 2 new hips eventually. I've got about a millimeter or 2 of cartilage left superiorly.
Okay. Okay.
And I can do the vast majority of what I want to do. I just can't do the high impact like running that I used to. But I can
Okay.
walk. And like I said, I walk 6 miles a pop. And it hurts a little bit, but I mean, I can do it. And it'd be worse if I didn't do it and I gained weight. So I just keep doing it. Got to keep moving,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's the key, I think, to the longevity is diet, exercise, and de-stress. Those are the three keys, I think. And but what I found out was that the discipline it takes to work out. I used to tell the residents, and maybe I didn't tell you this, but in the later years, I'd say, it's important to exercise all the time. But I said when you get over 70, it really becomes important, I think. And I've followed that. And unfortunately, maybe it's genetic. My mother exercised till she died. She went to 99, and so maybe I have some genetic, you know, uh, personality issues that I got from her that allow me to do that because it's hard for people to have the discipline to do this. And the thing is, you can start exercising at any age, and help. It'll help you tremendously. The other thing that's interesting, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, is called epigenetics. Are you familiar with that at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where you can, by using diet and exercise, you can turn on good genes and turn off bad genes.
Yeah.
They're studying that right now. So if it's worth anything besides being active, then I think that I think that it's probably a good idea, and it's not totally proven yet, but and that's nothing else. And I'm still skiing now. I just turned 81. I'm just still skiing, and we ski in Vail, and so I want to be active right till the end. So
Yeah.
I'm not interested in sitting in a chair and just wasting away the last years, right? So
Well, I think it's a great segue. I'm going to spin the tables. I'm going to ask you the same thing: 3 business, 3 personal questions, and then
okay,
we'll wrap it up. But so business wise, obviously I know what you do. I know what you did for many, many decades. And you kind of told at the beginning your story about, initially thinking family medicine and then transitioning over to orthopedics. But we talked a little bit offline about the current state of medicine and how the vast majority, I'd say 75% of, I'm just going to speak orthopedics right now, they tend to go into more employed positions, hospital employed, private equity employed versus true private practice, which is what you did for
Right.
50 years ish,
45 years.
45 years. So
Yeah.
what was it? Was there a person, or was that just what everybody did back then that you did private practice?
Everybody did back then, but as time went on, I found it to be more satisfying. The problem is you have to hire people, you have to run a business, that kind of stuff. But the freedom you receive from being on your own was far better than the control you'd have if you were in a hospital. They would tell you how much time you could take off, probably what equipment you would use, everything. I made my own choices on equipment, my time off, everything.
Your autonomy.
The freedom of having, doing what I wanted was so important. I think and my son now is practicing in Cape Cod, and he understands that now too, as they've hired people in the hospital where he's working at, and he's doing the private practice, and he's immensely successful. And he said, I can see the big difference, so. Now, some cases you can't do that. If you're working at the University of Michigan, you're going to be employed.
Right.
But in many cases you can still do it. Obviously, in a smaller town situation, I don't know if you have it over there, but obviously you're probably going to be in private practice more likely. But larger cities,
believe it or not, I'm the only private practice, orthopedic practice in Northwest Pennsylvania.
Really?
Everybody in Erie is employed. Everybody in Meadville. There's another practice in Meadville, believe it or not. They're all employed. Wow. And we're the only private practice. And I'm proud of that, though.
Yeah. Well, if the thing is, if you don't have ownership of the practice, I don't think you generally speaking, it's not everybody, but you don't go out of your way to all the time to help people out because, you're promoting your own practice, that kind of thing. And I think, I mean, there was many times when I'd be doing surgery at the hospital and someone would call up and needed to be seen. I said, well, send them to the office. I'll be done with surgery at 3:00. I'll take a look at them.
Yeah.
Well, nobody does that today,
We do.
Huh?
I had a guy that texted me.
Maybe, but I'm saying a lot of people do.
Oh, yeah, no.
In a large city. So, or someone, I remember, Bob Blumberg, who was an anesthesiologist at the hospital time. My son's having a problem with his wrist or knee, whatever it was. I said, well, just bring him over to the surgery lounge. I'll take a quick look at him,
Yeah.
And then if he needs an x-ray, we'll send him an x-ray. Those hallway consults or whatever, they're kind of gone. Or, for example, if I said to somebody, my dad's having an issue, can I send him in? Yeah, no problem. You can't, maybe you can do that in a small town now. But
yeah, so I actually have a nurse practitioner or a nurse navigator that he has a work cell phone, doesn't bring it home with him, but I give that to all my surgery patients as like the first line of defense so that they don't have to call and leave a message with the front desk or this or that. And I give that directly to anybody that texts me. They're like, hey, so-and-so I had a patient, I did his hip. My daughter just broke her elbow. She just broke her forearm. I'm like, we'll get her into the Erie office later this afternoon. Just Zach will coordinate that visit. I had a buddy that just did it 2 days ago. He was playing basketball and hurt his knee. And I said, we'll get you in tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
great. That's what we used to do, but that's not done here in a large city anymore,
no,
as far as
it's a lost art.
it's a lost art. And so I don't know where we're going with medicine. I think it's a fascinating field. I mean, orthopedics, I think, is going to get better and better as time goes on. Uh, but the hip, we'll have to wait and see. But maybe artificial intelligence will help some of the research go quicker. Um, or
Yeah.
maybe when you need a consult, you'll talk to the computer, and they're going to say, "I have a patient that's this weight, this, and and they'll tell you what size
These
prosthesis.
symptoms, and this is your diagnosis. You don't even need an X-ray, and here's your your prognosis and
Well,
your
they'll read the X-ray and they'll tell you use this size prosthesis, this size cup, this size whatever, this whatever you're going to do.
yeah.
I don't know. I bet, but we think at his age, I wouldn't do this or I'd do that or blah blah blah, whatever it is. So I think it's going to be different, but who knows? It's sure changed in my 45 years. So
Yeah.
50 years, it did totally different. So it's going to probably be different. The guys used to laugh when I told them about the old days when we used to put people in traction for fractured femurs for 6 weeks and then put them in a hip spica cast for another 4 or 5 weeks. They thought that was really barbaric, which it was, by the way.
Well, I mean, what else were you going to do, right? I mean, you didn't have a lot of other options.
That's all
back
we
then.
knew. That's all we knew,
So I guess in your 45 years, and in your training coming up to your career, was there one person that you can say was, orthopedically speaking, was your main influence, kind of like your mentor that you look to and can say, this is the person that really, or a couple guys that helped get me to where I was in my career?
Not really. Not really. I mean, when I hit the residency, it was basically a preceptorship. And a lot of the guys in those days just used the residents to, take care of a lot of work. And we learned a little surgery on the side, but it wasn't an academic situation, which I tried to create. And so I can't point to any one person. I mean, I went to a lot of courses and class, listened to a lot of people, but there isn't anybody in particular I'd say, that because of that guy, other than, Dr. Sloan gave me the opportunity to become a resident, but was he a big influence on me? No, not really.
Okay.
And so I can't really point to anybody. So, which is kind of sad, really.
Yeah.
So I kind of made it into an interesting situation myself. And when those Friday afternoon thing, I instituted that, before I even took over the program because I felt that the guys needed more of an academic situation.
So that segues into my next question, which was, all right, I came through your program, and I love you like you're my mom or my dad. You were kind of my dad there for 5 years, and I'll tell you, I knew what I was getting into. I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was going to be grueling. I knew it was going to be intense. I knew you were going to be hard on me, as you were everybody else.
Was I really that hard on people?
No, I mean,
Not
at the
really.
at the time, right? You're in the moment and you're just like, oh my gosh. But when you look back on it now, retrospectively, I look back on this. Not only do I appreciate who you were and who Dr. Kelly was to me and how you did things, but I also understand it better, and I wouldn't do it any other way. I wouldn't have had it done any other way. So my question is, what you created was unbelievable, right? An academic program. And we talked a little bit about this offline before we started recording. It's different than most residencies now. Like I kind of make it kind of akin to a mentorship or an apprenticeship, but you had an academic component to it where every Friday we would meet, we discuss multiple journal articles.
Right.
There, and your keywords were always this: critical thinking.
Right.
You made us think outside the box. You made us have these discussions. The other quote that always comes to my brain is repetition is the branding iron of knowledge, right? You used to say that all the time. And I tell my boys that. I was like, no matter what it is, if you want to hit a baseball well, you got to hit the baseball often. If you want to do really good knee surgery or hip surgery, you got to do it often. And you got to do it often, but you got to do it well. You can't do it sloppy.
Right way, yeah.
So,
well, yes.
just talk about what you created and how you created it, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, a lot of it was I learned on the fly on how to teach and that kind of stuff. Obviously, one of the reasons I was kind of hard on you guys at the beginning was I said, if you make a mistake, who's going to forgive you? I used to say that all the time, right? And people would say, "Is that?"
I never heard you say that.
Yeah, I did.
I'm
Well,
kidding you.
I said, "Who's going to forgive you?" And they look at me and I said, "Well, God will forgive you, but everybody else will sue you if you make a mistake, right? Especially in Detroit, right?"
Yeah.
And I said, so we can't afford to make any mistakes, and that's I impressed that on the residents initially, and I'm surprised I didn't say that to you, but
You did. I was just joking with you. You absolutely
um,
said that.
yeah,
And you
I
also
said
told
it.
me
So
one other
we can't
thing.
make
You,
any mistakes, and I found out that
you
if I
said
took
trust
smarter,
nobody.
in the old days,
Remember that?
pardon me.
You said trust nobody. And you used to tell me, don't even trust me, Ryan.
Yeah, yeah, right. Well, I want you to question everything we do, and you did that. I encouraged the guys to do that, which was a little unusual because most places they rotated to, a lot of guys, were not arrogant, but they didn't want to hear from a resident. That wasn't typical of a lot of residents. But I felt that you guys are smart. You can read the same books I can, and you come up with a different conclusion on what we should do. I'd like to hear it. And so, I just think that's important that if you take smart people that get their opinions, put them active in the process of doing that. Now, if you don't have smart people, then forget it. It's not going to work. Yeah, so, and I found that out early on too. In the old days, they took residents just if you hung out long enough, they would take you as a resident. I changed that, and I had an argument with the medical education, and I said we have to have at least 50% on the boards, right? Before he said that's terrible. Why are you doing that? Blah blah blah. And I said you got to be kidding me. Now, ultimately, we went up to 80, 90 percentile, whatever. And I think you were one of the guys we had. Twice we scored 99th percentile on the orthopedic boards, the board exam we take, not the
Yeah.
board exam.
No, and I don't
the-
say this very often, but you brought it up. I had the highest score in the nation on the written exam my year.
Did you? Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, yeah, you guys did we did well academically, but we were, small hospital out of nowhere. But you did on the board exam, but also in
In training.
the orthopedic mid-year. What was that exam? Everybody took
OITEs, orthopedic in training exam.
the orthopedic, right? We were 99 percentile
Yeah.
twice. Most of the time we were in the high 80s or low 90s, whatever, which was fantastic. And we did better than anybody in the state of Michigan, any residency. And even though we weren't the so-called best, osteopathic hospital.
But a little plug for you, because you did push that so much, is what a lot of people don't realize is we took the same in training exam as the MDs did, right? So we were taking the
Yes, we
same
did.
exam
Yes.
that the University of Michigan orthopedic residents were taking,
Yes.
that the same
Harvard
residents
took,
at Beaumont were
yeah.
taking, that the same
Yeah.
residents at Michigan State were everybody.
Right. Yeah. And in fact, my son was at Cleveland Clinic. We had higher scores than those guys in Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah, it was the whole country. It wasn't the state of Michigan. It was the whole country.
Yeah. So I thought that we had to be able to compete with everybody, and we took guys that were smart enough for sure. I made sure, but they had to be all around people. And I used to, people would ask me, "What's your secret about picking people?" Because they were able to talk to the nurses, the doctors when they rotated to other hospitals. The doctors loved them for the most part, everybody. And I had people come up to me from different hospitals, doctors, and say, "What's your secret?" They said, "How do you pick these people?" I'm sorry. How do you pick these people? Like it was some big secret, And I said, "No, we're just picking normal people that are socially can talk to people and they're intelligent and they're hardworking people." So, by and large, the residents I had over the 25 years I was the program director were excellent. I mean, there's a few that could have been better, but by and large, they were really outstanding. I learned just as much from them as I taught
Yeah.
them whatever. So
You mentioned that earlier when we were offline, and there's two quotes that I have heard in the past couple of years that you never said these directly, but they remind me of you. One we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, and that was you said you got to surround yourself with really good people, really smart people.
Right.
And the quote there, or the concept, I think it's more of a concept than a quote, is you really become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I
certainly I
do.
learned a lot from the guys that surrounded me, and the other thing, and to be a little bit selfish, the smart guys make less mistakes. I'm talking about all around guys. They
Yeah.
because they're not going to make mistakes. They can handle the family if there's a problem. If there's an emergency room, they can handle it and get people calm down, whatever the situation, and set up the case for the next day, and. And they knew how to talk to the patient, tell them exactly what the issue was, what we're going to do. I mean, after a while, they learn what to do.
Yeah,
And
but you're a product of
when
your environment.
when I
That's
go in and
essentially
talk to
what
the
that.
patient, they say, "Oh yeah, Doctor So and So, Doctor Molly told me all this already." I said,
Yeah.
"Great."
So my point is, you're essentially a product of your environment. If you spend the most amount of your time, and this isn't just during residency, this is your life, with 5 people, you're going to surround yourself with 5 people. You want to make those people 5 really good quality people,
Oh,
successful people,
absolutely,
and it's going to
absolutely.
raise your standard. The second quote
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
and I live this, breathe this every single day, is the way that you do anything is the way that you do everything. So if you're sloppy in your personal life with not working out or this or that, you're going to have a tendency to
yeah.
maybe be sloppy in your
Yes,
work,
yes,
right?
yes.
And
Absolutely.
if you're not a detail oriented person here, you're probably not going to be a detail oriented person here. So
Basically, if you're undisciplined in your life, and that means your diet, your ex, all that kind of things. I mean, because all those things help you have a clear head. You want to be a
yeah,
clear head going into surgery. You want to have the stamina to do the surgery. Obviously, you're doing a lot of cases. You need stamina to do that. You have to be sharp all the time. You can't be saying, "Well, that's the last case of the day. I can't." I'm not thinking clearly. You have to be thinking clearly all the time,
yeah.
and I think you have to. It takes discipline to do that. So most of the guys we had all had great discipline. They had great work ethic. It was just an amazing run. And people said, "Do you miss it?" I said, "Yeah, of course I miss it." I didn't. The only thing I don't miss is the stress, right? Because
Yeah.
as you get older, you have a little more. The stress bothers you a little more, and I'd be thinking about cases at night more than I was when I was younger, and maybe because I knew more things could go wrong. But other than that, I loved orthopedics, but I loved even more the association with the residents and teaching the residents and talking about orthopedics, hanging out every day, talking ortho with guys, and then talking about life in general was fun too. So it was a wonderful experience. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't wait to retire." They had to pull. I mean, I retired at 75, but most people don't last that long, and I probably last that long because I had a residence. But I loved it right till the end. And if I could start over again, I'd do it over again. But that's not the way life works.
No, you had a great run. So I'm going to
Yeah.
transition to the personal stuff. And my first
Okay.
question is another kind of life lesson that you taught me really outside of orthopedics. It was like you are a family man. You have 4 children,
Yeah.
lovely
Yeah.
wife. One of the things that you always said to me, and I do this now with my wife and 3 boys, is you were very, very big on travel and
Oh yeah.
culture
Oh
and
yeah.
exposing your family to vacations, right? And I'm not
Yep.
just talking like, oh, let's go do something fun. It was always like an opportunity for education and spending time together, and like you treasured that. I remember,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
we
yeah.
do as well.
I should remember that. That's true. I always said I spent most of my money. I didn't buy a gigantic house or whatever. I spent all my money on education, which I thought was a super important. And I had 3 kids go to Notre Dame and 1 to University of Michigan, and then
Not
one's
cheap, right?
became a lawyer. Huh?
Not cheap.
So yeah, not cheap. Well, it didn't bother me to spend the money on
Right.
the kids on that stuff. Now it's gotten crazy the cost now, but at the time I thought that was well spent, and all the kids have done well. One son's orthopedic, one's a lawyer, doing really well. One's a nurse in anesthesia, and then one's a mom, but she was in yeah, economics, and she married a family doctor who I think is fantastic in California, and he's a concierge physician, by the way. And that's probably what's going to happen to a lot of people: become a concierge doctor.
So I started a branch of that in my practice, by the way.
Yes, yes, and he's giving people the personal treatment because they can't get their doctor, whatever. So this way
Is
you
he
can
an
call him
MD
anytime.
VIP doctor by any chance?
Yes, MDVIP,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And anyways, he's doing exceptionally well with it, and he's turning away people. He's a great guy, but part of it's because people want better care, and he can only take care of so many people. So
Yeah.
I said you should probably hire somebody else to help
Well,
you
you're
out.
you're getting messages left and right there. You're a
Oh, you
busy
know why?
man.
Because my daughter in California, her daughter's swimming in a league championship, and just sent me
Some photos and
uh,
stuff.
her results. But getting back to the vacation thing, so I spent money on education and vacation. So every year I would pick a spot and we'd go. We started out going to Toronto, and then we went to up north, and then we went to California, and eventually we went to Europe on a 2-week trip, which was fantastic. And we took Caribbean cruises a lot. We went to the Grand Tetons. We did a lot of trips, and I always thought, it was more important to build chemistry. And by the way, that was an important thing. I didn't mention that as far as the residency, but it was also as far as the family is building chemistry between the people, between our residents. I thought that was important, and I would have a barbecue, or we'd play golf, or this or that. And you picked up the ball on that because you're one of the best party throwers of any resident we ever had. I'll never forget that. And but that was all building chemistry. The guys generally everybody liked each other. They
Yeah,
liked
we had
hanging out
fun.
with each other. And I remember Danny. God, I can't forget Danny's
Morris?
last name. But anyways, pardon me.
Morris.
Yeah, Danny Morris says to me, he says, I really enjoyed that fight. He told me that one time. He said, I really enjoyed the fight. It wasn't a lot of residencies were painful. He said that I had a great time.
Yeah.
And I think most of the people had a great time, barring a few. Because we enjoyed each other. I encouraged guys to have parties, and you did, and that would all build chemistry. So, anyways, getting back to the family, the same thing. I think family is super important to me. And what good is it if I'm a super successful orthopedic guy, or even financially or whatever, and your kids are failures? I just don't think that's a good recipe for life. And so I made sure that I would go to occasional meeting with my wife just for a medical meeting, but everything else I always took the kids, and we always. And now at this age, they're in their late 40s, whatever. We get together all the time. We had an 80th birthday party for me. We all met in Myrtle Beach. We had a 50th anniversary. We're in California, and then I visit them twice a year. They come to here twice a year. My daughter's here in town. They call me almost every day. How you doing? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. So we really enjoy each other's company, and we enjoy their grandkids, and we're just having a ball. And I have new residents. They're all real young now.
Yeah. So,
but I think that's great. You spend time with your kids because they grow up fast, and it'll come back to you, in spades.
yeah, we did Italy for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow,
about a year and a half
wonderful.
ago, we took my parents. But believe it or not, my parents had never been out of the country.
Really?
So,
Wow.
and that's where my family's from, my dad's family. So we got to see my grandfather's house that he grew up in. We got to see my
Really?
great grandfather's
Are they near
mausoleum.
Rome, or
tomb.
where? Where are they
Tuscany.
situated?
Tuscany.
Tuscany. Okay, yeah, I've
Yep.
been there. Yeah.
Yep. And then this June, the last week and a half of June and the first 5 days of July, we are going to Greece. As you know,
Good,
Karen is
good.
Greek. So she has
Right.
family over there, literally 12 minutes from where we're staying for one of the locations. We're going to see them. Then we're going to go to Crete for about 8 or 9 days. And then we're going to go to Athens for a couple days. So
When they get a little older, when they can appreciate it a little bit, I mean, your oldest one can, but you got to get all the kids kind of a certain age. The great cities of London, Paris, Rome are fantastic too.
we did Rome when we
Did you
were
do Rome?
in Italy. Yeah, we did Rome actually for 6 days. So they got to see all that stuff. We went to
Yeah.
the Colosseum. We went to,
Unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievable.
oh yeah, the
I was
Vatican.
totally amazed that 2,000 years ago, Rome was a paved city with buildings, a government,
Aqueducts.
a sanitation system, and aqueducts, and everybody else. If you think about it, there was no Paris, there was no London. Everybody was living in the forest, and these guys had a modern city.
Yeah.
And
We did
in my
Pompeii.
opinion was that, pardon me?
We did Pompeii as well when we were there.
Did you? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. It's amazing. I think the Roman Empire was unbelievable.
Yeah. I love
Unbelievable.
history,
I
by the
agree.
way. I've done several
Yeah.
podcasts where I listen to like the history of all the Caesars and Roman
Oh
history.
yeah.
Is just fascinating to me. And like
I agree. I
how
agree with you 100%.
precise their engineering was. So like my favorite
Oh yeah.
thing in Rome is the Pantheon.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh
how the
yeah.
heck did they build this domed roof that has no supports inside that has lasted
Yes.
over
Correct.
2,000 years?
Well, that building outside, it looks kind of nothing special, right? Just bricks and whatever. When you go inside, it looks like it was built 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It was so modernistic, and you're right that the couple of whatever it was, they supported that by the angle they put them on, whatever. But it looks so modern inside. So how can they do that? How about this? The the obelisk in the St. Peter's Square. Right,
Yeah.
Washington Monument there. Caligula's stole that from Egypt and brought it over 30 tons and put it back
Yeah.
up. What are you
Yeah.
talking
How the
about?
heck did they
How do
get
you
that
do
from
that?
Egypt across the water
Right. Right.
to Italy? And then like you couldn't, I mean, that would be a major, a
Yeah.
monumental thing if they did it today.
I say all the time, I say if Rome hadn't fallen from within, and I think most countries that are successful fall from within, we probably had a computer 500 years ago, because they were that far advanced more than anybody else. But
Yeah.
human nature is the one thing that never changes, no matter what age, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 500, whatever. Human nature has always been the same, and all the seven deadly sins, greed, this, that, whatever. They've always been with us, and that people succumb to that, and then you rise and you go down. I hope we're not in a fall
Yeah.
right now.
So
But anyway.
another question for you, personal wise. Again, you've traveled a lot. What is your favorite place that you've ever been to? And if you could like teleport yourself there right now, where would it be, and why?
I don't have any. I have a lot of favorites. I enjoyed Paris. I love Rome. I like the Grand Tetons; are spectacular. I even like the southern coast of California. Laguna, Newport area is spectacular area too. Hawaii, not so much. I thought that was overrated. And that's been about it. There's a lot of every place has some interesting things, and I don't have a absolute favorite, but I did find fascinating history and then beauty. We have places in this country that are spectacular.
Have you ever
The
been to
Grand Teton,
Sedona?
I think everybody should go to. Pardon me?
You ever been to Sedona?
Yes,
I
yes.
love Sedona.
But I couldn't appreciate the crevice in the earth there because my wife said, "You see how beautiful that looks?" I said, "I'm red green colorblind," so I said, "What? This looks dark. This looks dark to me. I don't see anything unusual about it." And yeah, that's an amazing. What did it take 1,000,000 years for that to burrow down there 1.25 miles or something like that?
I just
Yeah,
think
that's
just all the natural rock formations, and to me, like when I'm there, we've gone there the
yeah,
past 3 Easters. We spent there with the boys.
yeah,
We do
beautiful.
hikes in the morning, and then great restaurants and dinners in the evening. Um, it's like God's country out there to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's a lot of amazing. Yeah, that's a beautiful spot too. Yeah, but
So I guess my last personal question to you is: you've lived a long life, you've lived a very successful life, both personally and professionally. What would you say it is that you are most proud of? A little bit of both, personally and professionally.
well, I'm professionally, I'm just proud of our residency program. I'm really proud of how the quality of the residency, the people we had come through there. I'm really super proud of that. Um, and I mean, obviously, you sometimes get exasperated, but overall, it was a fantastic experience for me, and I really love that. Personally, I think having four great kids, great wife. I mean, that's been a fantastic. And now we have grandkids that are fantastic too. So, family to me is everything, and the teaching was everything too. So both those things I really enjoyed immensely. And I think anybody that partakes in teaching and you do some of that, you're good at that. It's really nice to leave a legacy of some sort. I mean, we got 45 guys out there that I had some kind of a interest or in some in their making of the orthopedic surgeon. I think that's just a wonderful thing. A
Well,
lot of people don't have
45 to
that experience.
100, right? Because I mean, 45 to 90, somewhere in between there. Because some years you had two.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's a nice thing to look back on, and I still I look back on it, and that was a lot of people don't have that ability experience. I mean, you're out in private practice, whatever, and that just kept it super enjoyable for me. And the time I spent all those Fridays, I loved it. It didn't bother me at all. I did it for 25 years. I was there all the time, and that was just a lot of fun. And so I don't know. I mean, what does that mean? That was me. I just enjoyed it. Some people wouldn't do that, spend the time to do that, but I thought it was important for the guys to learn the orthopedics, and I was happy to spend the time doing it, even though they didn't pay us for the first 30 years. So but that was okay.
So I can tell you, I mean, I was just at the AOAO in Vegas. I gave 2 talks at the adult reconstruction section meeting, but I saw a lot of the guys out there. It was a bit of a reunion.
Did you?
Yeah, I saw.
Who'd you see?
Well, Brian Sang and I, we both lectured. We actually
Okay,
did a
yeah,
point.
right.
We did a point counterpoint, him and I, which was fun.
Yeah.
He's been very, very successful. I would say of all of the residents, he and I, me personally, I've connected and stayed in connection with him more than anybody else. Probably because of we both did the same fellowship. We both do the same practice, right? We're adult reconstructive surgeons, and we were pretty close, and we just jived. We very much enjoy each other's company,
Brian's
and
a nice guy.
yeah,
Really good guy.
and his wife Kate's great. When I was out at Colorado Springs for the fall meeting, the 3 of us, Karen wasn't out there, unfortunately, but I went to dinner with Kate, Brian, and you would think, oh, I'm the third wheel, but like we had a great time, and
Oh yeah.
we text each other probably once every 6 weeks and ask each other's opinions on difficult cases and things like that. But I saw him. We ran into Ramsey. We had lunch with Ramsey one day.
Oh yeah. How's he doing?
Ramsey's doing great. He's got
He's not with Giab anymore, right?
no, he's not. Nope. Him and his wife are in practice together. She's obviously ENT. He's ortho, but they kind of share a staff. Kids are
Okay.
doing really well. I ran into Todd Peterson. I had seen him at the fall meeting
Peterson's
too.
doing really well. I know that.
Yeah, he and Mark Fisher, partners, doing
Yes.
well. Mark Allen, ran into him at
Mark
the
Allen's another great guy. Yeah, they're all great guys. All
Yep.
those guys are great guys. Yeah.
trying to think. Danny Morris was there. I didn't know Danny well because he was quite a bit younger than me. Blake is actually going to be on my podcast, this same podcast on Sunday.
Blake. Yeah.
Yep.
Blake. Yeah.
Yep.
He goes email crazy. Not email. What is it? FaceTime.
Facebook.
Or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not on Facebook, but I could see him doing that.
Yeah, he does that.
I've stayed in touch with Dave, obviously, Kanisic, Brian Keys and I a little bit, Ben a little bit. So who else I saw out there was Chip. Chip, he was quite a bit older than me, and I didn't know him that well, but I would say I spent as much time, if not more, with him this past conference than any of the other residents, and we really enjoyed each other's company.
He realized he was going to be a pediatrician. He just was rotating with me. I said, "What are you doing that for?"
Well, I was going to be a chiropractor.
Yeah. So I talked him into being orthopedics.
Yeah.
And that was funny. Yeah, he was terrific too. He was really good too.
Yeah.
What happened to your old? Weren't you in with Beckley? Whatever.
Yeah,
happened to
Tyler
him?
and I haven't talked to Tyler in a couple years, so I'm not sure. I think
Is he
he's
still practicing?
married and has a child right now.
Really?
So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
So-
Okay. Well, he was an interesting guy too.
Yeah.
So,
But
yeah.
great guys. I mean, you and Dr. Kelly, I talk about you guys all the time to kind of my team and my staff, and I'll use my Najarian voice and say little funny stories. I'm not going to share them on the podcast. They're more
Yeah.
internal.
Don't tell those stories. Yeah.
But they enjoy them, and they're like, "Oh, you're doing Dr. Najarian right now, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I am." But so I just want to thank you for your time tonight. This is always fun catching up with you, and I wish we could do it in person. Obviously, the next time that I'm in Michigan, I'm gonna
Yeah, give
shoot
me
you
a
a
call. We'll
text.
go or come on over for a glass of wine or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
I'll bring Karen over. I know she always enjoys
yeah. My
meeting
house
with
is always open.
your
Yeah,
your wife and just kind of catching up. But
absolutely. And keep up the good work. I know you're doing really well. Hope your hips hold out for a long time.
I got a couple more
Um,
years in
but
them.
yeah, a couple more years, but it's probably get more difficult to move around um, and aren't the hips lasting a little bit longer now? I mean,
Oh
how long
yeah,
they last?
yeah. I mean, I think the biggest advancement is just the polyethylene, right? I mean, like
Did
polywear
they
was
change
the
it?
biggest
Well,
thing. It's almost non-existent now. The
oh,
polywear.
really?
Yeah.
No kidding. Wow. So that you can do it for the rest of your life then?
I mean, I think you could at least plan to get 20, 25 years easily off of current
Okay.
implants.
Wow.
So
That's great. That's great. And then you're still doing the anterior approach. That's worked out really well.
do anterior on everybody, even my revision hips, and
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
I do
Wow.
medial
That's
pivot knees with kinematic alignment. I just started doing 8 months, so I'm kind of like you, where I don't have the luxury of doing like my Friday morning journal clubs all the time, but I will tell you, I'm constantly trying to become better
yeah.
at what I do. So
Yeah.
I just started doing subvastus um,
Yeah. Okay.
surgical approaches for all my knees, and I'm about 8 months in now, and there's a lot to it. I mean, when you talk about patellar instability, you're devascularizing the patella when
But
you do a standard.
right, you're getting much more detailed into it and more sophisticated. You're
Yeah,
getting better balanced knees. You're getting material that's better.
I'm splitting
They're getting
hairs, and
better
I really
function
enjoy
one.
splitting hairs.
Yeah, more normal function knee.
Yeah.
And I used to tell the residents too. I said almost everything that I was doing at that time was nothing I learned in residency program. It's changed so dramatically. Now
Yeah.
it hasn't changed that dramatically for you guys,
No, but it
but
still
maybe 50 years.
changes. I mean, I tell my staff all the time, I say, if I'm doing what I'm doing right now and 5 years from now, I'm doing something wrong, because we got to
Yeah,
constantly evolve and change and get better and
yeah, yeah.
improve.
I know.
So,
But by the time you're 75 years old, it'll probably be something totally different, and the way you do it's going to be different, and it's
oh,
going to be
yeah.
better and last longer, and people will be able to do maybe sports, whatever, or, who knows, I mean, more actively or whatever. So,
I enjoy what I
uh,
do, but I don't think I'm going to be doing what I do when I'm 75 like you did. I love it, but it's just the grind of it is just not. There's no way I can. I'm 45. There's no way I've
yeah,
got 30 more
I
years
know.
of
Well,
this.
I told Brian that too. He's doing upwards now to 1,200 cases a year. Now a lot of
Yeah,
them are hands, so they're pretty quick. He's doing carpal tunnels, by the way, making just a little nick in the local. Then he uses the ultrasound, and he showed me you can see the nerve, you can see the tendons, and you see the transverse retinacular ligament, and he makes the cut visually
yeah,
using the thing. So you can do those with no general anesthesia, nothing. So that's a whole big change in just doing that kind of surgery. But
right.
I told him that, at some point you're going to burn yourself out because he's doing so many cases. I said, you might like to teach at some point, but you can't do it on Cape Cod. You'd have to move somewhere else. But that would be a nice way to finish off your
Yeah,
career.
phase
Pretty
two
hard,
or
pretty
phase
intense.
three, maybe the back. I won't even say the back 9, maybe the back 3 or 4 holes. By the way, next week I'm doing a guys golf trip. You ever been to Nemacolin or heard of it?
No. Mm-mm.
It's down
Where's
south
that?
of Pittsburgh, but it's a beautiful golf resort. We're going down there. There's 10 of us. My best friend, the one that we started
Right.
Whole Health Communities with, he's an attorney in Cleveland, so we're going down there, and I've got a couple of my buddies from here, and he's got some buddies from there. So we rented a house. We'll be down there for 3 days, and we're gonna have a great time.
Have you practiced at all? I mean, it's kind of frustrating to just go out and play. I mean,
I haven't golfed yet this year. I will tell you, you can't see it right now, but we won our club member guest tournament
really?
last
Good.
year.
Was that because of you or your guest?
Well, my guest is a better golfer than me, but I will tell you that it was a combination. It came together on the last
Yeah.
day, and it was
Wonderful.
like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
We just, I'm a not a great golfer, but I enjoy golfing. And I was shooting, I think, 2 over through 9.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. Are you
So
kidding me?
yeah, and then we just didn't make a lot of mistakes, and we ham and egged it. So we got it together,
Yeah,
and then
the old ham and egg. Good for you.
we got
great.
into the championship. There was 12 teams in the championship, and we ran it and we won it.
You better hold on to that guy.
Well, he's been my partner, and you know who he is, by the way. You've met him at
Who's
some of
that?
my parties. So it's Karen's cousin Stacy, her husband Pete. He was at
Oh.
all of our parties.
Yeah,
If you saw
I
him, you would
remember.
remember him.
Yeah, I probably would. But
So
yeah, you had the best parties, I'll tell you. I still remember those.
well, they're going to Greece with us too. By the way, they're a family
right?
because they're Greek too. So the Theophilus family.
Well, enjoy your trip. That should be, and that's one place I haven't gone to. Athens, and of course some of those cities are supposed to be spectacular
Yeah.
on the coast. But yeah, you're gonna. That's always fun to do that.
And especially our
Especially-
boys, because like they got to see the Italian culture, like my side of the family. Now they're going to
Yeah.
get to see and experience, especially the cuisine. I mean, gosh, Greek food is amazing.
Greek
So,
food is fantastic. Yeah.
but we'll be there for
It
2
is.
weeks, so we're gonna soak it up.
All right. Well, don't eat too much.
Yeah, well, we'll work it off. We'll exercise. So, well,
All right,
hey,
sounds good.
boss, it was great having you on. Let me just do a little bit of closing. All right. So,
Okay,
sure. All my guests out there, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank Dr. Najarian for his time. I encourage you to leave comments, suggestions, especially all the previous residents. They're going to be watching this Dr. Najarian. They're going to have lots of comments and hopefully funny memories and things that they can share with us. But, like it, subscribe it. I'm going to ask you, Dr. Najarian, to share it with your family, your friends, and hopefully this can explode because I think it will. I mean, you've got a good big crew of your family, so your 4 kids can spread this word so that people can see it and really share the story of like what you have created, because I wouldn't be where I'm at doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for you. And I thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, I have loved some fishing in the outdoors where I'm free. It's where I spent my time before I hurt my hip and my knee. When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I says, they saw bones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. I wanna know, Doc, why do you think I got some pain in my joints from years of playing hard in this life that's too short? When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I says, they saw bones and just carrying on an old family tradition. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell me all about it, Doc.
As a disclaimer, this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professional from any such conditions.